At T-Mobile, our critical mission is providing unparalleled 5G coverage for when connectivity is mission critical. Introducing T-Priority, America's best 5G network experience for first responders, even in times of congestion. More capacity, faster speeds, better coverage. T-Priority from T-Mobile, built for tomorrow's emergencies, ready today. Discover more at t-priority.com.
For qualifying organizations on eligible rate plans, coverage not available in some areas and may be impacted by emergencies.
This episode is brought to you by Prime Video. In the small town of Holland, Michigan, nothing is ever what it seems. Behind the tulip festivals and pretty houses lay dark secrets that threaten to tear a marriage apart. Nicole Kidman stars in this darkly twisted thriller about a wife and mother whose quest to uncover her husband's secrets may get her more than she bargained for. Holland, streaming on Prime Video March 27th.
Hello and welcome to History for Weirdos.
We're your hosts, Andrew
and Stephanie,
and we're going to take you on a journey into the strange, obscure, and relentlessly entertaining corners of human history.
Now listen up, friends, because it's about to get weird. Welcome back, weirdos.
We're so back, baby.
Yay! This is our first episode back. After our hiatus.
Yes. How long were we gone? Like, it was months now.
I don't understand time, so I have no idea.
I said it in the, whatever that was called, the commercial that we had coming back.
Oh, our little preview, yes.
Coming attractions.
But it has been several months. We are so happy to be back.
Oh my God, yeah.
And we are very grateful to the weirdos who have been so encouraging and patient and so nice. When we announced the hiatus, everyone was so nice.
Yeah, you guys were the bomb diggity. To
put it in professional terms.
Exactly. Thank you. That's what I wanted to say. You guys, your amount of support was just kind of like overwhelming and in a great way, because I think it kind of pushed us to like come back. I think we were probably going to come back no matter what, but probably later in the year. And I think just it energized us seeing all of your messages and like just show of support really helped. So thank you guys so much.
And we want to like acknowledge that a lot of people shared, or at least I want to acknowledge as the therapist in me, a lot of people shared that they have also experienced burnout or are experiencing burnout. And that's just really nice when you share something kind of vulnerable like that, like, hey, we're not doing great, crashing out.
Yeah.
For other people to say, I've felt the same. I've been there too. Always feels so good. And I think a lot of us are experiencing burnout because that's just the world we live in. It's designed to burn us out. So it's not us. It's the system.
You gotta love corporatism, right?
You gotta love it. But we were able to take some rest. And we do have a new schedule coming back. Actually, speaking of burnout.
Thank you. Yes.
We want to be really intentional coming back. We want to avoid burnout again, if possible. Because as you all know, Andrew and I, this is a passion project we do on the side. We have other jobs that we have to do full time. And so to help us hopefully not burn out, instead of a new episode every single week, we're going to start with an every other week schedule.
Yes. And I know guys, but that might be slightly disappointing, and I understand truly, but I think this is best for the long run, and we really want to be here for the long run. So I think having it be every other week kind of gives us a little bit more free time, and also kind of gives us the edge to go deeper into every episode and to really write like something that we're very proud of.
Yeah, we want to focus on quality.
Yes. With
this new schedule, so that we can bring you the very best weird history possible.
Exactly.
That's the goal here. So we wanted to share that new schedule, and we want to share some updates with you all before we jump into the episode of since we last spoke. What have we been up to?
So we've been up to quite a bit. So we went to Istanbul, or you can say Constantinople, either one.
It's up to you.
I'm sorry, I had to. And your boy here, I actually got a hair transplant.
Yep, that's
I'm wearing
right.
a hat if you're watching the video right now, but History for Weirdos hat, by the way. And I'm like about a little over 2 months post-op now, so it's like I have some like hairs like coming in, but I'm recovering well, but it looks kind of a little funky right now.
Mm-hmm.
I'll probably show it off on Instagram, so if you aren't following us, that's a good incentive to do it.
If you want to see Andrew's weird scalp,
Yeah.
follow us on Instagram at History for Weirdos. I'm sure a lot of people listening have been at least somewhat interested in hair transplants. Do you want to share what the experience was like?
Yeah, it was a very, very streamlined experience.
And this is not sponsored.
This is not sponsored. I won't say like who did it.
Yeah.
Because yeah, it's not sponsored. But I will say that there is probably about like at least a half a dozen very, very high-end folks that can do this, and they're some of the best in the world.
Yeah.
At what they
Istanbul's the
do.
spot.
And I mean, a lot of these packages you buy is like you can go there for like I think it's like 4 days, 3 nights, something like that. So and you get put up in a pretty nice hotel, and then you get a driver to take you to the hospital. They shave your head.
Mm-hmm.
They draw like a little line on your head, and they're like, "This is your new hairline." And I'm like, I like what I see.
Yeah.
And then on top of that, they gave you a bunch of Novocaine or like I guess just painkillers,
Okay.
but it's administered through like this like crazy tri-needle,
Mm-hmm.
and they just like kind of like inject it into your scalp. Ironically, that's probably the thing that hurts the most.
Mm-hmm.
It's just administering that like numbing agent, because then once they actually get you going, it's just kind of boring because you can't like watch anything.
You're just laying
You're
there.
just laying there.
Mm-hmm.
And so it doesn't hurt at all. Maybe a little bit, but I mean, it's not a big deal.
How long did it take?
Probably like 4-5 hours.
And how did you feel right after?
Oh, insanely nauseous.
Mm-hmm.
I threw up immediately when we got back to the hotel room. Just
Yes.
immediately. I was like, I had like lunch at the hospital,
Yeah, they give you like a little snack.
which was pretty good. And then, I drive home, or, you're driven home. You're like a little queasy. And then I stepped right into a room. I was like, I didn't even like hug you or anything. I was like, oh, babe. And I just like kind of ran right past you into the restroom,
Yeah.
doing my business.
Yeah, I waited in our hotel for the day because, it was like a 4-hour procedure. Came back and was really excited to see how it went, and Andrew was too sick. And then the first night is difficult in terms of pain.
Oh my God. It felt like someone was jackhammering into my skull.
Mm-hmm.
It was awful.
And I think, I think we didn't really ask, but I got sick while we were there too. So we interacted
did.
with like the medical side of Turkey quite a few times. It seems as though they are much more conservative when it comes to pain medication.
That is true. I did
Right.
notice that.
They don't really provide much pain medication. So that's something to keep in mind. I don't know if we had advocated more for it, maybe. But the first night is painful.
Very painful.
And then after that, it requires you to kind of sleep funny for a couple weeks.
That's right. I forgot about that. You have to like sleep upright,
Mm-hmm.
and that's difficult. It's very difficult, and you have to do it for like 12 days. You have this like neck pillow.
Mm-hmm.
You're really uncomfortable. Like you want to scratch your head. It is so itchy,
But you can't scratch
but you
it.
can't. And yeah, and then once you get past that first like kind of 2 weeks,
2 weeks, yeah.
it gets a lot easier.
Yeah.
Because then you can like kind of lie down like normally. You can, I don't know, do a lot more stuff.
Yeah. And then, like you said, you're 2 months and feeling great.
Yeah, I'm feeling pretty good about the progress we're making, and I think it's gonna look really good in about like 10 months or so.
Yeah, you all just wait
Yeah, you wait.
for 10 months and then
You're
you'll
gonna see a lot more hats coming through here.
In the meantime.
In the meantime, yeah.
So that's the little almost like side quest that we went on while we were in Istanbul.
Yes.
But
But we did stay there for like full 8 days because we wanted to travel around the city, and we did see quite a bit.
what was your favorite thing that you saw?
Probably the Hagia Sophia.
Oh, it was really beautiful.
Also the Basilica Cistern.
That was my favorite.
Oh, so beautiful.
The Basilica Cistern is really, really beautiful. So is the Hagia Sophia. I really was surprised by how much I just loved the city immediately.
Yes.
Felt super comfortable. I was like, oh, this feels like me.
Yeah, it was a really, really cool city.
Food was amazing.
Oh my God, we stumbled into that Michelin star restaurant,
Yeah.
and it was very affordable. Like,
For a Michelin star restaurant, yeah.
Yeah.
And it was so
it was
good.
unbelievable. I think that was like the day after my surgery. So like it's cold, right? It's December in Istanbul, and I don't have like a head. You can't wear hats at this time, so my head's just out in
Bare.
the cold. It's bare, but it feels great because it was like just. I look like Megamind, guys. It was like swollen up.
It did look like Megaman.
I know.
But it was red and swollen instead of blue.
Yeah, exactly. And it doesn't help that I already have a big head, so it really, really just went like all out on the big headness.
Oh, wait. You know what I loved about the city?
The cats.
Yeah.
I knew exactly what you were gonna say.
Because I was thinking about the cats we met at that restaurant. There are cats everywhere in Istanbul.
And you can like pet them. Like people are like they're part of like the city. Like shop owners will just like leave like little like trays of food out. It's just like they have this understanding. And you know what you won't find? Rats.
There's no rats in a huge, huge city.
I mean, it's the biggest city in Europe by far.
Yes. And it like you won't see a rat in sight. And you'll see so many cats and the cats are friendly. And yeah, like Andrew said, like you find them if you go into a bookshop, they're gonna be like in the bookshelves.
Yeah.
If you go to a restaurant, they sit like at their own table. Like the cats are just there. They're everywhere. The cats are awesome. The city is beautiful. Everyone was really, really nice and welcoming. We met a lot of people from different parts of the world, actually. There's a big immigrant community.
Yeah, very cosmopolitan.
Very cosmopolitan. So it was cool. We met people from, gosh, where was everyone from? Where was Naz from?
Iran.
Iran.
Yeah.
We met just people from, oh my gosh, that one Uber driver. He was so cool. He was telling us about the museum.
Oh, was it he was the Armenian? No, he was northern Iraq.
Yes.
He was a Kurd.
Yes.
Yeah, that was cool.
He was
a
really
dude.
cool. And he told us about this museum in Istanbul that a guy made
Oh my God, yes.
for his ex. Like it's a museum of their relationship. I think maybe not ex, maybe she died. I can't remember.
It might have been late wife or something.
Something like that, but it's like their house and he turned it into a museum and it's like
everything she ever owned.
everything she ever touched. It's like bits of her trash. It's a shrine to this woman. And it's very popular to go visit it. We didn't have a chance. It was closed when we were near it. And I told Andrew, I was like, that better be you. Okay?
Can you believe this, guys?
I want
Can
nothing
you
less.
believe this?
If I'm gone first, you better make a shrine to our love and to my existence.
What do you think, weirdos? Should I?
Yes, do it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Fun
So
stuff.
that was Istanbul. We highly recommend. If you haven't been, it's definitely worth a visit. We would love to see more of Turkey in the future as well.
Exactly. Definitely.
And what else has happened?
Okay, so in not so fun news, I got laid off from my like day job, which kind of sucked. It definitely sucked. I'm not gonna lie.
It's been tough.
It's been really tough. But you know, one of the great things about I think podcasting, funny enough, is like it's taught me a little bit about perseverance. And so I've been doing a lot of like consulting work on the side and to kind of like make up for that lack of or loss of income. And it's been going better than I thought it would.
Yeah.
Which is nice. And also, I'm just going to put myself out there. If any of you guys need any sort of help with like strategy operations or more recently in Google Ads.
You know where to reach us. Email us.
There you go.
Or should they email you directly?
No, just email History for Weirdos. I actually checked that more than my personal one.
Oh, great. That's the perfect place. So yeah, it's been a tough time. This was recent. We weren't expecting this. But I really think you're handling it beautifully. There's no easy way to go through losing your employment unexpectedly.
Yeah, completely out of the blue.
Completely
I was not
out of the
expecting
blue.
this.
But we're pushing through, and I think having coming back to the podcast feels nice because it's like something good to focus on, something positive.
Exactly.
In our lives.
It absolutely is. I mean, it does give me a little bit more time for History for Weirdos, which just looking on the bright side of things.
There you go.
But I mean, I have to say, like, guys, Stephanie, I have like the best wife ever.
Oh, that's me.
And she's been so helpful, I think, in this kind of transition. So
Thank you.
I think I'm just extremely grateful.
I'm grateful for you too. And we're grateful for you all. And while Andrew is down a job, I have too many jobs.
I know you do. Guys, she's like a part-time professor. She obviously does this. She owns her own private practice and sees a boatload of clients.
Yeah.
Like, I'm like, Steph, like,
It's a lot.
it's a lot.
I am teaching. I think I mentioned this before we left, right? Yeah, I started teaching at Cal State LA, graduate class. Shout out to my students if they're listening, because I know that they found the podcast and they were excited. And I told them we were on a hiatus, and the class was like, no. So if any of my students are listening, hi. Please disregard what I'm about to say. Fast forward. Beep, 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 beep. You guys, now that they fast forwarded, teaching is so draining.
Oh my God. They're going to hear this and they're going to be like,
I think they know because I've talked to them about it. It's not the actual teaching. It's the logistics and administrative stuff that comes with working in academia that is draining. But being with my class is probably the fun part. I don't like grading. I'm like, meh, everyone gets 100, you know?
oh my God, I would have loved you.
We're all doing our best, okay? So I'm not a big fan of grading. Not a big fan of being the enforcer of rules.
No, you hate that.
I hate it. I hate when I have to be like, hey, you're not doing this thing and you need to do this thing.
Yeah, so guys, just do the thing.
You know, just do the thing.
Make it easier on Stephanie. Come on.
I've learned a lot from my students. My students are great. They're really cool. I speak of them and think of them fondly. But I think I've realized that with all the things on my plate, I won't be teaching next semester. So that'll be nice. Again, that'll be done in May. So again, I'll have more time for the podcast, which is great.
Which I'm sure you guys are very stoked on.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. And Pericles is now 61 pounds.
Yeah, Perry's our penultimate update for you guys. Is Perry. He's a big boy.
He's a big boy in a small apartment.
And he's not a good boy.
No, he's a beautiful like soul, and I love him to death. But he's not a good boy.
He's not a good boy. Probably because...
He's a sweet boy, not a good boy.
Probably because of what I just said. I hate being the enforcer. I hate saying no.
He gives you that look, and I'm like, come on. Like, I'm going to give you what you want now.
We are millennials without a child, so he is our baby. You know, we're those millennial dog parents.
I literally never thought I was going to be one of those people.
Me neither.
Here we are.
He slept in our bed last night. Like, there are no rules when it comes to Perry.
There aren't. No.
Pericles is running the show.
Yeah, we're just his fans.
Yeah, we're just his servants and his fans.
Straight up. I swear to God. It's true.
And if you ever want to see pictures of Perry, videos of Perry, again, follow us on Instagram. We have added a Perry highlight to the page. So you can go through and you can get all the Pericles content you want.
Oh, hell yeah. And then the last thing, do you want to do it or you want me to do it?
You announce it because you really worked on this.
That's true. This was like a little bit of my baby. So we set up the very first History for Weirdos merch store. Exactly.
Yeah,
you can find it in the show
cheers.
notes. And then also, while we're on the subject of like the internet, we also have... Okay, it's not that funny.
The subject of I was still cheering for the merch. The merch is huge.
Oh, I know. But what I was going to say, though, is our website.
We have a new website.
We have a
You're
brand
right.
new website. I think it looks better. It's up now and running.
Mm-hmm. It'll be easier to kind of like navigate and find our content. We'd love to at some point, make kind of like a little blog post almost for each episode so we can link like resources there. We'd love to, share the books and the movies and the stuff that we love on there. So keep an eye out on the website. And that is where they can find the merch, right?
Yeah, you can find the merch there. Also in the show notes of this episode, you'll find the link to the merch, which includes this hat. I also have a really sick sweatshirt that I'll be wearing in the next episode that you'll see.
Well, can I share what the merch is?
You share.
Oh, because I kind of spearheaded the designs.
Yeah, that was you.
Well, actually, some of our designs come from a listener.
Yeah, which is really cool.
You all will see that, and we'll credit them in the store as well. So a series of designs are created by a weirdo, a listener, and those are more like History for Weirdos logo type products, which are really fun and cool. I think kind of subtle and quirky, like if you know type of thing. We have merch for Kudiyun. We have merch for Phineas Gage. He's the guy who got the iron rod in his head and his personality changed.
You had a pretty sick sticker of that. It looks really good.
We have merch for Yasuke. He was the samurai from Africa, right? And you can find all of these designs, which I can't wait to see what you all think of them, in like such a myriad of products.
Yes.
Sweatshirts, shirts, stickers.
Exactly. What I would do if I were you is like when you go to the link, you'll see all of like the artwork, and then you press on the artwork, and then you can get that on like a hat, a shirt, like a sweatshirt, even like
a tote bag.
A tote bag. Yeah. It's all over the place. Oh, we also have one with the emu war. That one's cute.
Yes. The emus.
Yeah.
People are such fans of the emu war.
I know. I think that's such quintessential like history for weirdos. I mean, Kudiyun and emus, the emu war.
You know, they're the OGs.
Like ADHD, like history personified right there.
100%. 100%. So not only are we back with new episodes, we're back with merch and a new website, and we hope you enjoy those things.
Exactly.
Are your ulcerative colitis symptoms proving difficult to manage? Tremfya guselkumab can help you manage the cycle of UC symptoms. At 1 year, many patients taking Tremfya achieved clinical remission, and some patients also achieved endoscopic remission. Individual results may vary. Tremfya is a prescription medicine used to treat adults with moderately to severely active ulcerative colitis. Serious allergic reactions and increased risk of infections may occur. Before treatment, your doctor should check you for infections and TB. Tell your doctor if you have an infection, flu-like symptoms, or if you need a vaccine. Ask your doctor if Tremfya can help you manage the cycle of UC symptoms. Call 1-800-526-7736 to learn more, or visit tremfyaradio.com.
Does it ever feel like you're a marketing professional just speaking into the void? Well, with LinkedIn ads, you can know you're reaching the right decision makers. You can even target buyers by job title, industry, company, seniority, skills. Wait, did I say job title yet? Get started today and see how you can avoid the void and reach the right buyers with LinkedIn ads. We'll even give you a $100 credit on your next campaign. Get started at linkedin.com/results. Terms and conditions apply.
Hey, it's Bill Simmons from the Bill Simmons Podcast here to tell you about Michelob Ultra Courtside. It's getting fans closer to the NBA with a chance to win prizes like courtside seats, a trip to All-Star Weekend, and much more. Check it out at MichelobUltra.com/courtside. Michelob Ultra Superior Access, Courtside 24-25 sweepstakes, no purchase necessary. Open to U.S. residents 21 and up. Begins on October 1st, 2024, ends July 1st, 2025. Multiple entry periods. Visit MichelobUltra.com/courtside for free entry deadlines, and official rules. Message and data rates may apply. Void where prohibited.
All right, love. You want to get started on this episode, the first episode back?
Our very first episode back. I am so excited. And this one's a good one. I'm really excited about this.
It better be.
So also, shout out to my friend Pat.
Hi, Pat.
He's the one who gave me this book that started the whole like
deep
dive into this episode. So the book was on a single man, but this episode is about an event. But that man was instrumental in kind of creating this, either like more indirectly, so at some point even directly, but really interesting. The historical figure name is Samuel Zemurray, or Sam Zemurray.
Okay. Really
interesting guy. I don't have it in my notes up for him, but not an interesting guy, maybe not necessarily a great guy.
You know, that's okay. You can't be everything.
You can't be everything. That is true. So you know what? Let's just get into this week's episode, shall we?
Yes, we shall.
So we explore a lot this week. We go from bananas to corporatization of local foreign economies to the CIA communist relationship and to even overthrowing democratically elected governments.
I love it, especially the bananas part.
Yeah, it's bananas.
It's bananas.
Like literally.
You know I love bananas.
You do?
Yeah.
It's really funny.
Andrew's not as big of a fan of bananas.
No. I mean, but who knew that the banana, which is so sweet, could turn relations between the U.S. and Central America so sour?
Wow.
I had to, guys. I had to.
That's a good one. That's a good opening line.
I know, right? But before we get into the events of this episode, let's first talk about the United Fruit Company, shall we?
I've been waiting for you to bring up the United Fruit Company.
So the United Fruit Company, or UFC, formed in 1899, and it owned just large tracts of land across Central America, and they controlled railroads, docks, communication systems in Guatemala.
That's a lot of control.
Yes, and we'll be focusing mainly on Guatemala. So by the next year, it was the largest banana exporter with a monopoly over the Guatemalan banana trade. Yeah.
Monopolies aren't good, though.
They are not good.
They're not chill.
I also know that they were very instrumental in Honduras as well. But we're, again, focusing on Guatemala.
Okay, I really want to go.
To Guatemala?
Yeah.
I want to go to both, but yeah.
Yeah, I really want to go to Antigua.
Antigua. Antigua.
Guatemala.
That's fun to say.
Yeah, it is.
So over the next 30 years or so, United Fruit mostly consolidated its holdings and threatened just anyone who got in their way. So really interesting aside here is that in the 1920s, the UFC was in conflict with another banana exporting corporation, Cayumel, which was operated by none other than Samuel Zemurray.
Oh, that's where he comes into play.
Yes, and these companies were just really going at it. They were causing widespread violence in the region. I mean, essentially you had like just legitimate open corporate warfare to the point where the United States State Department had to step in and basically order these two companies to merge, which like never happens, by the way. The judiciary doesn't want mergers, right?
Yeah.
Especially over giant corporations becoming one mega corporation. Not good for the consumer.
Yeah.
They ordered this because they just needed this. They were like, this makes the U.S. look bad.
Why?
Basically. Wait, why what?
Why would it make the U.S. look bad?
Oh, the open corporate warfare and destabilizing a region. Because they're U.S. companies.
Because they're both U.S. companies.
Exactly.
I see. Okay.
And they didn't want that.
I didn't realize that.
Which is ironic because I feel like our government does that a lot now.
All the time.
Yeah, all the time.
But back then we were still pretending.
Yeah.
Okay.
Maybe even some people actually felt it.
Maybe.
Who knows?
And this was all over bananas.
This was bananas.
So this was a banana turf war.
This was literally a banana turf war. Isn't this wild?
I really want some cornflakes with little banana slices in them now.
Oh my God.
I think other Latinos know. That's how you do it.
They know. So by 1930, the UFC had operating capital $215 million. This is 1930 money too. So that's a lot of money.
That's a lot of money.
And they were the largest landowner and employer in Guatemala by far. So, and again, they had now just merged with Cayumel, so they're even bigger. So in 1950, the UFC's annual profit was $65 million, twice the revenue of Guatemala's government.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
That's not good.
It virtually owned Puerto Barrios, Guatemala's only Atlantic port, profiting from goods flowing through it.
That's so dangerous.
It's very dangerous, yes.
Oh my gosh, the government does not have nearly as much power as the fruit company?
A fruit company, yeah.
Okay.
The government having a lot of power is dangerous. Like a single corporation,
yeah,
it's even worse.
Yeah.
It's crazy. So Guatemalan revolutionaries saw the UFC as like an impediment to progress, right?
Definitely.
Especially after 1944, due to its association with the past UFCO government and really discriminatory policies. So basically, there's this new president that comes in 1944 named Arevalo, and he implemented a new labor code, allow the United Fruit Company workers to strike.
Okay.
And here's the thing, this is what they're kind of going towards. They're introducing a bunch of kind of new labor code and labor laws protecting the workers, which hadn't happened for decades. And the United Fruit Company, because the United Fruit Company owned 550,000 acres in Guatemala, and only 15% of that was actually cultivated.
Oh my God.
They just were the other
hoarding the rest.
Exactly.
That's insane. So they're exploiting the people of Guatemala, the workers, and they're exploiting the land and hoarding the land.
Exactly.
Okay.
So yeah, they're sick. Mm-hmm. Yeah, they're really cool. And it's over this uncultivated land that the CIA would eventually instigate a coup, overthrow a democratically, elected government at the behest of a corporation, essentially.
I had my eyes closed almost the whole time you were talking because I was so embarrassed for the CIA. I was like, why do you always do this?
Yeah, it's this one.
Why are you always getting involved?
It's not chill.
It's not chill to overthrow democratically elected leaders.
Right?
Yeah.
So let's go back a little bit to 1944-ish. So prior to that year, Guatemala was governed by authoritarian leaders who prioritized like economic growth via commodity exports, basically coffee and bananas.
Okay.
And they frequently did this at the expense of the indigenous majority.
Yeah.
Following a surge in global coffee demand in the late 19th century, though, the Guatemalan government granted concessions to plantation owners. Yeah, dispossessing large amounts of indigenous populations to communal land holdings.
Oh my gosh.
So basically just kicking people off their land.
Kicking indigenous people off their own land.
Yeah.
For profit.
Exactly.
For the sake of profit.
Yes.
Okay.
Manuel Estrada Cabrera, the president of Guatemala from 1898 to 1920, made large concessions to foreign corporations, including the United Fruit Company. Mm-hmm. So the U.S. exerted its dominance not always through military force, right? As dictators in Guatemala accommodated U.S. economic interests in exchange for support. And this led to the term Banana Republic.
Oh my gosh.
Yes.
Wow.
And now they make cool clothes.
And now they make cool, like, safari chic clothes.
Exactly.
I can see why. And, you know, we've talked about this. I don't think we've talked about it on the podcast, but we can see very easily when you look at U.S. history why there is so much resentment, so much anti-American sentiment.
Yeah.
Because how exploitive, inappropriate, disgusting for just an American corporation to have more focus, attention, and resources than indigenous people.
Yeah, like this wasn't even, it's not even like, oh, well, like, it's like at the behest of like the American citizens, which is bad. I'm not saying like
which would
that's
still be
good.
bad. Mm-hmm.
But this is just for like a private corporation, which is, it's insane.
Yes, not even a person, but like a corporate entity.
Yeah.
To take precedence over people and their lives.
Unreal, right?
Yeah.
I'm just laughing because it's so absurd.
Of course.
It's insane. And, well, from 1890 to 1920, control of Guatemala's resources shifted from, the same time, basically, from Britain and Germany to the U.S., which became its dominant trading partner. Mm-hmm. And even the U.S. government appointed J.P. Morgan and Co. to be the official bank of Guatemala, repaying its debt. Basically a coming sign that the U.S. was encroaching on Latin American affairs, which we would see, for the next, 50, 60, 70 years.
Yeah. We see that a lot up to Reagan, right?
Pretty much, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So in 1944, you get what's called the 10 Years of Spring. And this was a brief period of good reforms that were aimed at addressing these deep inequalities, right, in land distribution and labor rights, particularly for the majority indigenous population, right?
10 Years of Spring.
10 Years of Spring.
Sounds like it ends.
It does. It does. I'm sorry, it's not funny, but like it's so absurd.
Yes.
So the repressive policies of Jorge Ubico's government led to this popular uprising. I mentioned it earlier in 1944. Ubico fled, and this would become known as the October Revolution in Guatemala, which is ironic given that I think in the USSR it was the November Revolution. Or was it the October Revolution?
I actually don't know.
I don't know. I can't remember.
Someone
either.
listening is screaming.
Yeah, they're like, it's obviously this one.
Yeah.
And I'm sorry to you. So, but the Guatemala's October Revolution was aimed to transform Guatemala into a liberal democracy, right?
Yeah.
And Juan Jose Arevalo, and I'm not sure if I'm saying that right, was elected president in Guatemala's first largely free election ever.
Oh, in 1945?
44.
44. Oh my gosh. The people that have been
Right.
waiting for this, for their voices to be heard.
Yeah, first one ever.
Oh boy.
So his administration drafted, a more favorable labor code to the workers, right, to the working class. They built health centers and increased funding for education, right? He enacted like a minimum wage and created state-run farms to employ like the landless laborers.
Okay.
More for like the people as opposed to, a foreign corporation.
Yeah, so they're covering healthcare, education, employment, the things that you need and should want for your country to thrive.
Exactly. For like just a good society.
Right. A functioning
A
society.
functioning society. I know. Crazy, right? But that was against the interests. A functioning society was against the interests of this corporation.
Oh, this is too triggering.
I know. It's like, I just feel like it's like
been happening for so long and continues to happen, and it just keeps happening more and more and more. Like the monster of corporatism is just like never satisfied.
exactly. I couldn't have said it better myself.
Ugh.
I know. Quick aside, I did write an article on Substack about, I called them corpo tyrants.
It's
And
really good.
If you do, yeah, I think the link is in our bio on Instagram. So if you want to check it out, you can.
You should link it in the show notes too.
Oh yeah, I'll do that as well. But
Yeah, it's a really good article.
yeah, thanks, baby. Back to the episode though. So obviously, Arevalo's his reforms were really popular amongst just the common citizenry, right? And things were going all right because he wasn't the difference. And we'll get into kind of his successor here in just a second, but Arevalo was a little bit more of a pragmatist.
Okay.
Like he had very firm beliefs, but he was a pragmatist. So he kind of he was like, look, United Fruit Corporation, we're making some changes. You can't fight that. I could make it even worse for you, but I'm not going to. That's kind of like the gist, I think, of when I was reading about him. That's kind of like what I got.
What his approach was.
Exactly. Now, you get his successor, Jacobo Árbenz.
It's Jacob.
Yeah, exactly. So he was the vice president for Arevalo, and he succeeded him in 1951, and he started instituting more aggressive land reforms.
Okay.
So he wanted to just continue he wanted to continue Arevalo's work, but just kind of push it. And he, in 1952, he passed a decree or issued Decree 900, which was a particularly ambitious land reform policy aimed at redistributing large unused estates to landless peasants, mainly benefiting the indigenous workers who have been screwed over for decades now.
That was a land back move.
It was a land back move, exactly.
Oh my God. That's incredible.
Yes, but not to the CIA, it wasn't.
It's so on brand.
So, and you know what kind of, okay, is there another episode that this gives the same vibe?
Yeah, but I can't put my finger on it.
Yes, there is one. Because it's a very different time period.
Oh, tell me.
It was the Grocki brothers.
Yes. Where you're like trying to do something for the people.
Exactly.
And the wealthy or powerful parties that would not benefit from this are like, actually, I'm going to take you out.
Pretty much, yeah. And that was 2,000 years prior in ancient Rome. The Grocki brothers were these populare. That's they were the populares. They were like kind of like the rabble rousers who wanted to, give more
to the common citizen.
Yeah, give more rights and wealth to the common citizen because ancient Rome at that time was just wildly like stratified into like different, like very, very different wealth classes. Even worse than we have in America right now.
Almost like a caste system.
Pretty much, yeah.
That's so interesting. History repeats itself.
Yeah, that was way back in episode 52 if you were interested. But Back to Decree 900, this sought to increase Guatemala's autonomy and create a successful example of land reform in Central America, and that's what it was on like, that was the plan.
I mean, it's very reasonable land reform. This is unused
It's
land.
unused. Yeah, like you might as well.
It'll
like,
help the country to give it to the people.
Exactly.
But the CIA is like, but that doesn't help the CIA.
That doesn't help American interests.
Whatever those are.
Yeah, I know, whatever, right? So basically the law ordered the expropriation of land larger than 600 acres that wasn't being used for cultivation. So the goal, it wasn't even like all of the land, right? It was just for like, if you had like 599 acres, right? Or 600 acres and it was uncultivated,
you could still keep it.
You'd still keep it.
Which is insane. That's a mass amount of land.
Exactly. So this was ambitious, but it was pretty reasonable. Like, it wasn't like he wasn't just being punitive. Like, it seemed like it was very well thought out. And the goal was to have these lands be divided again amongst the landless and compensate the previous owners through government bonds.
Wow.
So again, it wasn't even like an outright seizure. So Arbenz's land reforms granted, again, this property to the landless peasants. By 1953, Arbenz's government had expropriated large amounts of the United Fruit Company's unused land. And again, unused land, and they're being compensated by government bonds.
Right.
So
no one's stealing anything, technically.
Exactly.
It's like giving it back
to the people.
Because you're not using it.
Yes. The reforms were, of course, met with fierce opposition from Guatemala's elite and the U.S. government, which, again, had economic interest tied to the United Fruit Company.
And the U.S. government's opinion should not matter in this situation at all. The corporation's benefit should not matter at all. And the elite, that's going to be quite a minority of the people.
Have you thought about the shareholders, babe? What about them?
What about their interests?
Yeah, what about their interests, okay? So the Guatemalan Revolution of like 1944 was strongly disliked by the U.S. federal government because they saw it as communist.
Oh my God.
I'm laughing because it's so absurd. It's so absurd that it was not.
We can't profit off this. It's communist.
Literally.
Okay.
So the perception especially grew after Arbenz legalized the Communist Guatemalan Party of Labor, which he's not saying he's a communist. He was just saying he just gave free speech.
Yeah.
So
you're allowed to have whatever party
exactly
you want.
Yeah, exactly.
You should be.
I mean, even in the U.S., we have some pretty disgusting political parties. So
yeah.
And I'm not even talking about the Republicans and Democrats.
No.
So I'm not even going to name them because they're not worth it. But we have them. So, but back to this. The U.S. government feared that Guatemala's example could inspire nationalists wanting social reform through Latin America. And the United States government was fearful that the political movements with the Arbenz administration and the allowing of the Communist Party within Guatemala would create an easy access for the Soviet Union to infiltrate the U.S.
I have nothing nice to say.
Yes. So, yeah, I mean, officials feared that Guatemala would reduce the influence of U.S. corporations, therefore reduce U.S. influence overall.
God forbid.
The United States Security Council, NSC 144/1, warned of, quote, a drift in the area toward radical and nationalistic regimes, end quote.
Oh my.
This is the United States Security Council.
Imagine Guatemalan people having access to land in their country. That's radical.
That's communist.
That's communist. That's dangerous.
If you like that, you're a commie.
Oh my
Get out of here.
goodness. People having their own land. My gosh.
I know. It was considered that Guatemala represented a serious threat to the hemispheric solidarity and to U.S. security in the Caribbean area. Yeah.
Hemispheric solidarity is quite an interesting way of putting it, U.S.
Right? Isn't that?
We want everyone to fall in line with us and our best interest.
Exactly. I mean, and to add fuel to the fire, Arbenz was supported by like a leftist coalition government with all, not communist, just leftist, with all key positions below the cabinet level, thoroughly controlled by, a quote, communist dominated bureaucracy.
And even if it was, that's none of your business.
I know. Basically, the CIA placed top operational priority of Guatemala in an effort to reduce the and possibly eliminate communist power in Guatemala. And they were willing to do anything about that.
Oh.
But here's the thing about this. It's largely untrue. That's why I was doing like air quotes, especially if you're viewing. Like, I mean, obviously, like if you're listening to us,
Yeah.
very little of this is actually true. In fact, Arbenz had philosophically been inspired by a U.S. president, FDR. That's who he looked up to. It was a U.S. president. So, and one who would, who had been in office relatively recently.
And for a long time.
Also, what didn't help Arbenz's cause is that Samuel Zemurray, he's now actually the president, or just ending his presidency, but still has quite a bit of influence within the United Fruit Company.
Okay.
And he hired a guy by the name of Edward Bernays,
Okay.
who was the father of modern propaganda, to slander the Arbenz government.
Oh my God.
Yes. The stage was essentially being set for an overthrow at this point.
Where's Zemurray from?
Zemurray, he's interesting. He was I think, Russian Jewish dude who had immigrated to the United States at a very young age.
Wow.
So, and he was dirt poor.
And then became
like a fascist pig.
That's crazy.
Yeah. Like a corporatist fascist. Like it's wild.
That's so sad.
I know. So we had some big time conflicts of interest here within the United Fruit Company and high ranking members of the United States government. So John Foster Dulles, he was Eisenhower's Secretary of State, and his brother Alan Dulles was the director of the CIA, and they had close ties to the United Fruit Company.
This is not okay.
So the Dulles brothers were partners in the law firm Sullivan and Cromwell, and in their capacity as lawyers, they had arranged several deals for the United Fruit Company, and Director Alan Dulles was a member or a board member of the United Fruit Company.
Corruption, corruption, corruption.
Yes. Undersecretary of State Walter Bedell Smith would later become a director of that company.
So this is like if you and all of your coworkers like had a side hustle. I don't even know where I'm going with this actually.
I want to hear it.
And then like in a neighborhood, and the neighborhood was like, we don't want this side hustle. We want our own businesses, and you all banded together, used your power from your main job to destroy that neighborhood.
Yeah, kind of. Yeah, I'd say that's pretty accurate.
Oh my God.
Because we all know where we're going with this,
We
right?
all know what's going to happen.
We all know what's happening. It's just I haven't said it yet, but it's happening.
Mm-hmm.
So it gets even worse, by the way. Eisenhower's personal assistant, Ann C. Whitman, was the wife of the United Fruit Company Public Relations Director, Edmund S. Whitman.
I'm shaking my head. No.
So obviously, these personal connections meant that the Eisenhower administration tended to conflate the interests of the United Fruit Company with that of United States national security interests.
Yes, very well put.
Outright corruption.
Yeah, outright.
Like, this is, in my mind, this is like the fire within me. Like, that's treasonous. I would put you on trial for treason.
Absolutely. Because you're putting your own profit interests above the nation that you've sworn yourself to.
Exactly. That's obviously made the government the Eisenhower administration much more willing to overthrow the Guatemalan government.
Yeah, of course.
So historians have maintained that the lobbying of the United Fruit Company and the expropriation of its lands were the chief motivation for the United States, strengthened by the financial ties of individuals within the Eisenhower administration to the United Fruit Company.
Yeah, and that basically summarizes everything.
Exactly. I mean, Jesus, it's just, I can't even, it's so absurd, I guess. Like, when you really dig into this, it's just insane.
You know what's so sad is in this like idea of like in our childhoods that they gave us that our government, the United States government, was free of corruption.
Yeah.
That other countries had corruption. Corruption's a bad thing. We've been taught it's very, very bad to do things just like this. But the United States doesn't do those things. The United States isn't corrupt.
Yeah, the United States is the good guy.
Yeah, we
don't
bring
do
justice where there is corruption.
We bring freedom.
Yep, we bring freedom and democracy.
Yeah, exactly.
It's so heartbreaking.
It is.
Hey, Fidelity. What's it cost to invest with the Fidelity app?
Start with as little as $1 with no account fees or trade commissions on U.S. stocks and ETFs.
That's music to my ears.
I can only talk.
Investing involves risk, including risk of loss. Zero account fees apply to retail brokerage accounts only. Sell order assessment fee not included. A limited number of ETFs are subject to a transaction-based service fee of $100. See full list at fidelity.com/commissions. Fidelity Brokerage Services, LLC, member NYSE SIPC.
Support comes from ServiceNow. We're for people doing the creative work they actually want to do. That's why this ad was written and read by a real person and not AI. You know what people don't want to do? Boring, busy work. Now with AI agents built into the ServiceNow platform, you can automate millions of repetitive tasks in every corner of your business, IT, HR, and more, so your people can focus on the work that they want to do. That's putting AI agents to work for people. It's your turn. Visit servicenow.com.
We off? 30 seconds of carefree bliss. Oof, like wind in your hair carefree. Oh, like using Clorox disinfecting all-purpose cleaner in the home carefree. Yes! Like dog slobbing on the coffee table and cleaning it with Clorox Carefree? He's on a roll now. Spit toothpaste on the faucet. You got it. You got it. Peanut butter on the light switch. Oh, spritz, spritz. Spritz, spritz. Clorox, man. Clean feels good.
Okay, we're back. Use as directed.
I mean, if the stage wasn't set before with like the anti-communism angle, it was really set now. So let's get into Operation PB Success.
Peanut butter success.
Peanut butter success.
Because you know what tastes really good is a banana with peanut butter.
Oh my God. You need to have like lunch number 2 or something.
We had half of our lunch. We didn't have our full lunch.
That's true.
We had half of our lunch.
That's true.
Okay? I'm not a hobbit. I don't need breakfast and second breakfast and 11sies.
I think you kind of are low-key a little bit like a hobbit. You always have to like be eating something.
Because I'm hungry.
Your Honor, I rest my case.
I knew this would happen if we talked about food on the podcast ever.
And bananas.
I mean, bananas are so yummy.
Well, anyways, in August 1953, I just like dismissed you, just like...
Okay, you know what's weird?
Okay, what?
I like bananas that are really like bruised.
No, they're sweeter.
They're sweeter that
but
way.
If I have to eat a banana, like I want that in my smoothie. If I have to eat a banana just plain, it has to be like yellow. Like it was green just before, and now it's like yellow.
Okay, I could see that.
Yeah, but in smoothies, the one with the brown, that's better.
Or banana bread. You want them mushy.
Oh, yeah, that's a good point too.
It makes the banana bread so sweet.
Like Samuel Zamuri, that's how he made his, like the beginning of his fortune was made because he took the bananas that were like getting to be too ripe or like just on the precipice, and he would like ship them out really fast to like other areas and for like cheaper prices.
I see.
Yeah.
I thought you were going to say because his banana bread was so good. That's how he made his fortune. Could you imagine? Yeah.
That'd be wild. This guy who's like instituting or like instigating overthrows of democratically elected governments just start off making banana bread.
Really good banana bread, the kind with chocolate chips in it.
Okay, guys, he didn't actually do that. Just to be clear. Okay, so
back to PB Success.
You know what? Before we even do that, did you take your meds today?
I did.
Oh my gosh.
I did. Actually.
That's crazy. Well, okay, August 1953, President Eisenhower authorized the CIA to overthrow Jacobo Árbenz, codenamed Operation PB Success.
No PB Success.
The operation was granted an initial budget of $2.7 million for psychological warfare and political action.
How do you think you're the good guy?
Yeah, I don't know. And I'm actually pretty freaking disappointed Eisenhower, because
Yeah.
I actually like him overall as a president. Really? Yeah, I think he's a pretty good president. He also was the first president to warn of the military-industrial complex, which is has a stranglehold over our government today.
I mean, General Eisenhower would know.
Yeah, he would know, and he was like, "It's a disease."
Mm-hmm.
I think he is regretful from this, from what I've read. Like he thinks this was a huge mistake.
Well,
but the damage has already been done.
Exactly.
The total budget for this operation was between $5 and $7 million, and this was in the early to mid 50s. A lot of money back then. I don't have today's equivalent because I think it's a lot. It's a lot. So a retrospective CIA memorandum from 1975, so a couple decades later, confirms the agency's role in the overthrow of President Arbenz. So the CIA doesn't even deny it, including air support, the training of anti-Arbenz guerrillas, the fabrication of Soviet weapon shipments, and clandestine propaganda operations intended to, quote, intimidate members of the Communist Party and any public officials who are sympathetic to the communist cause, end quote.
Wow. This is so important to remember and acknowledge that governments will lie to you to make it look like someone's the bad guy.
Exactly.
When they're not really the bad guy, they're just in the way, right?
That's a really good point to bring up, because that's something that is I think why we study history ultimately. I just like it. And I just like to hear stories. But part of me also is I want to look for patterns, right? Because you find a lot of things that went wrong, but you also find things of the truth, right? And you can recognize,
in your today, you can look at what's happening and think,
exactly.
Oh, they're telling me this is the truth, but this may not be the truth.
Precisely.
Mm-hmm.
Especially our government.
Mm-hmm.
So the plans for Operation PB Success called for a campaign of psychological warfare to present Castillo Armas' victory as a fait accompli. Did I say that right? I think it's French. Fait accompli.
How's the first word spelled?
F-A-I-T.
Fait accompli. Yeah, like it's a done deal.
A done deal, exactly. Yeah. I know, I'm so bad with French.
No, that was good.
A fait accompli to the Guatemalan people and would force Arbenz to resign. So Castillo Armas is basically just this exiled puppet dictator that the CIA and the U.S. government want to prop up in Guatemala. So the propaganda campaign had begun well before the invasion, with the U.S. Information Agency, the USIA, writing hundreds of articles on Guatemalan-based CIA reports and distributing tens of thousands of leaflets throughout Latin America.
Oh my God.
Yeah, they really
they went at it from every level.
Exactly.
The ground up.
I mean, this was early in the psychological warfare. So this is this would be really damaging. The CIA persuaded friendly governments to screen video footage of Guatemala that supported the U.S. version of events, which we will later find out were largely fabricated. As part of the psychological warfare, the U.S. Psychological Strategy Board authorized a, quote, nerve war against individuals, end quote, to instill fear and paranoia in potential loyalists and other potential opponents of the coup. This included death threats against political leaders deemed loyal or deemed to be communist, and the sending of small wooden coffins, non-functioning bombs, and hangman's nooses to such people.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Terrorizing them.
It's literally, psychological terrorism.
Wow.
The U.S. bombing was also intended to have psychological consequences, with E. Howard Hunt of the CIA saying, quote, what we wanted to do was to have a terror campaign to terrify Arbenz, particularly to terrify his troops, much as the German Stuka bombers terrified the population of Holland, Belgium, and Poland, end quote.
You're always the good guy when you're learning from the Nazis.
Literally, they're let's learn from the Luftwaffe. Are you kidding me, dude? So the CIA also developed the Sherwood program, a clandestine radio broadcast campaign to be used during the later stages of PBS Success. So the program's goal was to psychologically condition its target audience, during the pre-attack period, convince it that the anti-communists were successful during the attack, and encourage underground partisan cells to organize against the Guatemalan government. Santa Fe Island was chosen as the broadcast site, where 15 natives and 10 U.S. Weather Bureau/CAA personnel resided. At least 14 recordings were made for the Sherwood program.
They're like, I'm speechless.
It's literally just a disinformation campaign.
Yeah.
I mean, lies. Yeah.
It's
really bad.
Oh
So,
my gosh.
the voice of liberation. So this was the most wide-reaching psychological weapon. It was the radio station La Voz de la Liberación.
Shut the front door, dude.
Yeah, it began broadcasting on May 1st, 1954, carrying anti-communist propaganda, telling its listeners to resist the Arbenz government and support the liberating forces of Castillo Árbenz.
What the?
I also love that his last name is Arbenz.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
Mm-hmm. To convince the people, to gaslight them, to convince them what you wanted isn't actually what you wanted. This is what you want instead.
Yeah, they're communists. They're making things worse.
Oh my God.
Open your doors to the liberating force.
This is so scary.
It's sick. I mean, God knows. And this was in the 50s. Imagine how good our government is now.
Well, and we're constantly hooked up to ways to get us information, right?
Right. Like
all the time.
All the time.
Mm.
So the station claimed to be broadcasting from deep within the jungles of the Guatemalan hinterland, a message which many people believed. In actuality, the broadcasts were concocted in Miami.
Oh my God. Miami.
Yeah. They were by Guatemalan exiles, flown to Central America and broadcast through like a mobile transmitter.
This is so wild.
Yeah. The Voice of Liberation transmissions continued throughout the conflict, broadcasting exaggerated news of rebel troops converging on the capital and contributing to the massive demoralization among both the army and the civilian population.
I mean, this could create mass hysteria.
That was literally the point.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Crazy. So Castillo Armas' army of only 480 men was not large enough to defeat the Guatemalan military, even with U.S. supplied aircraft. Therefore, this psychological warfare was an absolute necessity.
Mm-hmm.
And the CIA was instrumental in having this being pulled off.
Mm-hmm.
So Arma's force of 480 men had been split into 4 teams, and they left their bases in Honduras and El Salvador and assembled in various towns just outside the Guatemalan border. And at 8:20 a.m. on June 18th, 1954, Castillo Armas led his invading troops over the border. And that's officially the coup is beginning.
I'm so sad. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I'm quiet. I'm so sad.
Yeah. So 10 trained saboteurs. I love that word, by the way.
Saboteur.
Saboteur. So 10 trained saboteurs preceded the invasion with the aim of blowing up railways and cutting telegraph lines, again, adding to the mass hysteria. I think it's just like building blocks of the Voice of Liberation and then all these things happening.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they all kind of add up and they become, I think, bigger than the sum is greater than their parts.
Of course, yeah. Like a single thing wouldn't have done much, but all of them together and probably in this specific sequence.
Yeah, this was a very well thought out plan.
All for profit.
All for the United Fruit Company.
Mm-hmm.
So at about the same time, Castillo Armas' planes flew over a pro-government rally at the Capitol. The U.S. Psychological Strategy Board ordered the bombing of the Matamoros Fortress in downtown Guatemala City, and a U.S. P-47 warplane flown by a mercenary pilot bombed the city of Chicamula.
Wow. Actual bombings.
Literal, that's what the Luftwaffe did during the Spanish Civil War.
Mm-hmm.
What was that city called?
I have no idea.
Guernica.
Okay.
Guernica.
Looked at me like I didn't bring it up.
Yeah, I know, right? I was the one who brought it up. Yeah, it just dawned on me. I was like, yeah, that reminded me of Guernica. Castillo Armas demanded Arbenz's immediate surrender, of course, right?
Mm-hmm.
The invasion provoked a brief panic in the capital, which quickly decreased as the rebels failed to make any striking moves, right? This is a very small army that's actually invading. Bogged down by supplies and a lack of transportation, Castillo Armas's forces took several days to reach their targets, which at least gave the Guatemalan military a little bit of time to kind of like get its act together.
Yeah.
But it's all for naught, of course. So when the rebels did reach their targets, they met with further setbacks. The force of 122 men targeting Zacapa were intercepted and decisively beaten by a garrison of only 30 Guatemalan soldiers, with 30 men of the 122 escaping death or capture.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So the force that attacked Puerto Barrios was dispatched by policemen and armed dock workers, with many of the rebels fleeing back to Honduras.
Wow.
Yeah. I mean, policemen beating back like an invading force. That's crazy.
And dock workers.
Yeah. That's wild. So in an effort to regain momentum, the rebel planes tried air attacks on the capital. These attacks caused little material damage, but they had the significant psychological impact, leading many citizens to believe that the invasion force was far more powerful than it actually was.
Yeah, that's what matters the most. You don't need to be powerful. You need the mob to think you're powerful.
Exactly. So the P-47s flew from Puerto Rico to Panama and went into action on June 23rd, hitting Guatemalan army forces and other targets in the capital. Early in the morning of June 27th, 1954, a plane attacked Puerto San Jose and bombed the British cargo ship SS Springford, which was on a charter with the U.S. company W.R. Grace and Company Line, which had been loaded with Guatemalan coffee. This incident cost the CIA $1 million in compensation.
Oh my God.
Yeah, isn't that crazy?
They're just burning through money.
They're just burning through it
to get this terrible, terrible thing done.
Yeah, exactly. So on May 24th, the U.S. launched Operation Hard Rock Baker, a naval blockade of Guatemala. Ships and submarines patrolled the Guatemalan coast, and all approaching ships were stopped and searched. These included ships from Britain and France even, violating international law. And I think, just kind of as an interesting aside, I think this is around the point where the U.S. has become far more powerful than Great Britain and starts instituting policy towards Britain, which is
a huge shift.
Yes.
Yeah, in their relationship thus far.
Exactly. Yeah, because Britain and France did not protest very strongly at all, hoping that in return the U.S. would not interfere with their efforts to subdue rebellious colonies in the Middle East, which ironically the U.S. would tell Britain to basically bugger off. Very strange. There was also plans of assassinations. The plans included drawing up lists of people within Arbenz's government to be assassinated if the coup were to be carried out, right? Manuals of assassination techniques were compiled, and lists were also made of people whom the junta, this military junta, would dispose of. These were the CIA's first known assassination manuals, and they were reused in subsequent CIA actions.
I'm sure, yeah.
Crazy, right?
It'd be wild to get your hands on one of those.
Oh my God, from a historical perspective,
Yeah.
that would be crazy.
Yeah.
So the CIA, they began collecting names of possible assassination targets as early as January of 1952. So this is 2.5 years before the coup.
Long time coming.
The documents reveal discussions on creating lists of individuals deemed strategically important for removal through, quote, executive action, end quote. Yeah. 2 declassified CIA docs reveals such a discussion of assassination of the Guatemalans. The first document from March of 1954 refers to a list requested by an unknown CIA official in an official capacity. Members of the Communist Party and others of, quote, tactical importance, whose removal for psychological, organizational, or other reasons is mandatory for the success of military action, end quote.
Damn, no arguing with that.
Yeah. There's also another list that introduces a list of people who were kind of take out with any means possible, or like list like people who aren't as dangerous, like exile or imprisonment.
Okay. So there's like a hierarchy of like who needs to be taken out, who needs to just be pushed to the side.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly. So initially, like the Guatemalan army was successful, right, in countering the invasion by Castillo Arbenz forces. However, the psychological impact of like the CIA and its warfare stoked too much fear of a possible like U.S. invasion.
Mm-hmm.
So they were like, people were wigged out, including Arbenz. So Arbenz attempted to even arm civilians to resist the invasion, but was unsuccessful because the army, again, wary of a U.S. intervention, just started to refuse to fight.
Oh my gosh. The terror that must have been spread.
Exactly. So facing a deteriorating situation and the army's unwillingness to defend, his government, Arbenz resigned on June 27th, 1954. He sought political asylum in the Mexican embassy.
Viva Mexico.
Yeah. In his resignation speech, Arbenz stated his decision was aimed at eliminating the pretext for the invasion, right, and preserving the gains of the 1944 October Revolution, just 10 years prior, a little less than 10 years prior.
So he really was like taking one for the team.
Essentially, yes.
Mm-hmm.
So
it's a good leader.
Yeah. I mean, following his resignation, Carlos Enrique Diaz, the chief of the armed forces, announced his takeover as president. However, that was short-lived. The U.S. ambassador to Guatemala, Purifoy, intervened, deemed Diaz not convenient for American policy.
Yeah, that's what matters.
Diaz was castigated for allowing Arbenz to criticize the U.S. in his resignation speech.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Can't even say anything bad about the people that have been terrorizing your country.
Exactly. Basically, like a military junta was formed at this point with Colonels Elfego Hernan Monzon Agare and José Angel Sanchez. They kind of like took over.
Okay.
But that was also short-lived because eventually the power was ceded to Castillo Arbenz.
Yeah, which is who the U.S. had picked all along.
Exactly.
They're like, you guys could keep putting people here. We're going to get our puppet in there one way or another.
And that is exactly what happened because he was and I mean, even Monzon was a staunch anti-communist.
Mm-hmm.
But
that didn't matter.
It didn't matter
because it wasn't about communism.
Exactly. The U.S. needed their puppet in there. So, and I'm guessing he was probably a staunch anti-communist, but still had like a sympathy for like the people,
for his own country.
Yeah. And the U.S. is like, no, man.
Oh no, that's not what we want.
Nah, we're not about that life, homie.
We need the fruit company to be making money.
Yeah, exactly. So that members of the administration can make money.
Yeah.
Obviously.
At the expense of your country.
Yeah, duh. You're selfish if you don't allow that to happen.
Basically.
Yeah. So Oscar Osorio, he was the dictator of El Salvador at the time, hosted talks in San Salvador, bringing together Monzon and Castillo Arbenz. The Purifoy's intervention, described by John Dulles as meant to, quote, crack some heads together, end quote, led to an agreement where Castillo Arbenz and Major Enrique Trinidad Olivia joined the junta headed by Monzon. And subsequently, Monzon's supporters resigned from the junta, allowing Castillo Arbenz to be unanimously elected the president of the junta.
I'm shocked.
Yes.
Wow.
And Colonels Dubois and Cruz Salazar, who were kind of instrumental in this happening and like on behest of the United States, were each paid $100,000 for their cooperation.
Damn.
And then the U.S. government promptly recognized this new government on July 13th. So like literally just like 2 weeks later, if that. So soon after assuming office, Castillo Arbenz faced a coup attempt by young army cadets, funny enough, which was suppressed, resulting in many casualties though. So elections were held in October, but they excluded all political parties except Castillo Arbenz National Liberation Movement.
So a fake election.
He won with 99% of the vote.
Crazy when that happens.
Right? Crazy. He's so popular.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
I'm just thinking, what makes me sad is I'm thinking of how this situation that you're describing is going to affect generations of Guatemalans, right? This is the long-term effects of this.
You have no idea.
Yeah.
Yeah. Or maybe you do. I think you do, actually. So this guy arrested thousands of opposition leaders, branding them communists. He repealed the 1945 Constitution and assumed dictatorial powers. Unsurprising, right? Concentration camps were established due to overthrowing jails.
Hey guys, have you heard of Goldbelly? It's this amazing site where they ship the most iconic, famous foods from restaurants across the country, anywhere, nationwide. I've never found a more perfect gift than food. They ship Chicago deep dish pizza, New York bagels, Maine lobster rolls, and even Ina Garten's famous cakes. So if you're looking for a gift for the food lover in your life, head to goldbelly.com and get 20% off your first order with promo code GIFT.
BTW, FYI. Visit Nexplanon.com RN to learn about Nexplanon. It's an gestural implant, 68 milligrams radio pain. Or ask your HCP IRL. Okay, TTYL.
Campfire season's back, and that means s'mores. But when you're at home treating yourself, take them over ice with Dunkin' S'mores Cold Brew Concentrate. And suddenly you're always treating yourself. The home with Dunkin' is where you want to be. Click or tap the banner to shop now.
The National Committee of Defense Against Communism was created, granting sweeping powers of arrest, detention, and deportation.
Just to further the witch hunt.
Exactly. So, in the initial months of his government, Castillo Arbenz rounded up and executed between 3,000 to 5,000 supporters of Arbenz. I mean, even at one point, it was estimated that 1,000 UFC workers were executed.
Oh my God.
Yeah. Labor unions, peasant organizations, and political parties, obviously besides his own, were outlawed. Castillo Arbenz reversed Arbenz's agrarian reforms. Funny enough, a move criticized by the U.S. Embassy as a long step backwards.
Wow. Whose fault could that be?
I know, right? It's like, that's so ironic.
So many steps backwards.
Yeah.
So much oppression.
Unsurprisingly, on the international stage, the Guatemalan coup was widely condemned. So Le Monde and I think the Times criticized the coup as, quote, economic colonialism, end quote.
Yes. Oh, wow. I'm surprised people were saying it at the time.
Even contemporaries.
Wow.
Yeah, I mean, they're absolutely right. So Latin American public opinion was critical of the U.S. after this, with Guatemala becoming a symbol of resistance to U.S. hegemony. Former British Prime Minister Clement Attlee called it, quote, a plain act of aggression, end quote.
Absolutely.
I mean, even the UN Secretary General stated the invasion violated the human rights stipulations of the UN Charter. So, despite the international criticism, though, the coup had broad support amongst U.S. politicians. The Eisenhower administration justified the intervention by claiming it was countering communism and protecting U.S. interests.
You're just a big bully.
Yes. And
everyone sees it.
Oh, I know. Director Alan Dulles described the coup as a victory of democracy over communism.
That's not democracy.
Yeah,
no one can pretend that's democracy.
Yeah, it's wild. Like, I mean, the levels of like delusion.
Yeah, the manipulation, the gaslighting.
Yeah,
it's horrific. In this story, at least, I'll taper it, I guess, or I'll contain it. That's the word to this story. The U.S. sounds so much like a narcissistic parent.
This is why we have a therapist on the podcast.
It's just so awful.
Yeah.
It's so awful. And then that's going to, like I said, impact generations, and people are going to flee a country where their voices aren't heard and where they're being oppressed and executed, and they're going to want to immigrate here, and then they get demonized for wanting to do that. So USA. Oh my God. It's such an awful cycle.
Oh, and it's horrible.
Ugh.
Well, the coup marked a definitive death blow to democracy in Guatemala, Alan Dulles. So the reversal of progressive policies led to leftist insurgencies in the countryside beginning in like 1960. The dependence on the officer corps and mercenaries led to widespread corruption in dealing with these insurgencies, right? Castillo Armas was in turn assassinated in 1957, so his rule did not last long. The coup triggered a 36-year civil war between the U.S.-backed military and leftist insurgencies.
36 years.
Atrocities against civilians were committed by all sides, with 93% of violations attributed to the U.S.-backed military, though. The violence included a genocidal scorched earth campaign against the indigenous Maya population in the 1980s. The violence was particularly severe during the presidencies of Rios Montt and Lucas Garcia. Other human rights violations included massacres, rape, aerial bombardment, and forced disappearances.
The most disgusting things you could possibly do, all happening in this one country.
Exactly. The ideological narrative that the 1954 coup represented a battle against communism was used to justify the violence in the 1980s. The Civil War finally ended in 1996.
That's so recent.
With a peace accord, including an amnesty for fighters on all sides.
We were 4.
We were alive during that time. A thing that started like in 1960.
There's so many lives, generations ruined.
Just ruined. Get this. The Civil War resulted in an estimated 200,000 civilian deaths.
My mouth went dry.
All because the United Fruit Company were just greedy bastards.
Because of corporate greed.
Yeah, literally because of corporate greed.
Mm-hmm.
Something to think about in today's climate.
I think so.
So, the coup deepened Guatemala's structural inequalities, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
The reversal of Arbenz's agrarian reforms led the U.S. Embassy to comment, again, that it was a long step backwards. Poverty and malnutrition became widespread, worsened by the climate change, funny enough, which ravaged the agricultural sector. And the UFC did not ultimately profit from the coup, funny enough. Its profits actually continued to decline, leading to a merger with another company. So it didn't even work for them.
It didn't even work. They destroyed how many? 200? I mean, countless.
Yeah, I mean, countless. But at least like around 200,000 people died just for them to lose money more. If they just would have just said, okay, cool, like...
we got to deal with it.
Yeah.
You're going to give land to some people that isn't being used, and you're going to pay for the land, and we'll just move on.
Exactly.
Guatemala's history would have been so different.
Yeah. So Operation PB History was launched by the CIA to analyze documents from the Arbenz government to justify the 1954 coup after the fact.
Mm-hmm.
The CIA aimed to find evidence that the Guatemalan communists had been under the influence of the Soviet Union, but failed to find any convincing evidence of Soviet influence itself or connections to Moscow.
Yeah, because it was all coming from the U.S.
Documents gathered were used by authors, often with CIA assistance, to describe the Guatemalan Revolution and the coup in terms favorable to the CIA.
Mm-hmm.
However, the Soviet description of the coup, that the U.S. had crushed a democratic revolution to protect the United Fruit Company's control over the Guatemalan economy, became much more widely accepted.
Yeah.
I mean, it's the truth.
Because it's the truth.
They didn't even have to use propaganda. They were just like, the truth is bad enough.
They're like, oh no, this is what happened. And everyone's like, yeah.
I'm not saying the Soviets are good guys by any means, but like they didn't have to do anything.
Yeah.
They're like, you guys just shot yourself in the foot.
Mm-hmm.
So the relatively easy overthrow of Arbenz, along with the 1953 Iranian coup, led to CIA overconfidence.
Mm-hmm.
This was a direct contributing factor of the failed Bay of Pigs invasion in 1961.
Right.
Because they were just like using the same playbook.
Right. They're like, we could do this again.
Exactly. So the coup resulted in long-lasting anti-U.S. sentiment in Latin America for decades and generations, which I think still lasts to this day.
Yes, and understandably so.
I don't even blame them.
Yeah.
So the American role in the regime change contributed to many Guatemalans' support of communism, ironically enough.
That's what's going to happen.
It's called blowback, which the CIA will find out about. They even coined that term. So newspapers in the UK criticized America's intrusive covert operations as, quote, modern forms, again, of economic colonialism, end quote. The operation of PB success confirmed the belief of many in the Eisenhower administration that covert operations offered a safe, inexpensive substitute for armed forces in resisting communist inroads in the Third World.
What?
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Yes, exactly. So going forward again to our childhood, U.S. President Bill Clinton apologized to Guatemala in 1999.
Oh my goodness.
So this is about, 45 years later, for the atrocities committed by the U.S.-backed dictatorships.
Wow.
The apology followed the release of a Truth Commission report documenting U.S. support for military forces that committed genocide. In 2011, the Guatemalan government signed an agreement with Arbenz's family to restore his legacy and publicly apologize for the government's role in ousting him. I'm in college at this point.
Yeah, 2011.
Guatemalan President Alvaro Colom made a formal apology again in that same year, acknowledging the ousting of Arbenz as a crime against the Guatemalan society and an act of aggression against a government starting its democratic spring.
Yeah, that's so heartbreaking.
And there you have it, guys. That was the bananas leading to a CIA-backed coup d'etat, decades of civil war, and hundreds of thousands dead. All in the name of corporate greed.
Wow.
Which didn't even work. And before I forget, do you know what the United Fruit Company is known as today? They still exist. They were bought out, and they're a part of like a bigger conglomerate.
No, what is it?
Chiquita Banana.
No! Chiquita Banana.
So Chiquita Banana can legitimately say that they overthrew a democratically elected government.
This is so horrible.
Yeah,
This is horrifying. You did such a great job of telling this story, a story that I had no idea. All I knew was really that the U.S. had overthrown a democratically elected leader at some point. I had no idea about the psychological terror and everything that came with it, and I hadn't understood the scope of the ramifications of that.
I mean, I didn't either when I started researching this. I knew a little bit about it. From the book I read, I didn't understand the deep impact, or I couldn't have possibly understood.
An impact that's being felt today.
Yeah. I mean, directly, indirectly, it's awful. It's atrocious.
Yeah. I could see why so many people are resentful of the U.S.
I get it. Even as an American, I totally get it.
Yeah.
Why are we doing this?
Mm-hmm. Why are you meddling, causing chaos, destroying lives, and then being upset with people for not being happy about it?
Yeah, exactly. And again, it's not even like it benefits the U.S. citizenry back home, which again is not a good thing. But it just benefits corporations. So it's like
what are you doing?
What are
you fighting for?
Exactly.
This is so sad.
Yeah.
Ugh, but you did such a great job of telling such a sad, awful story.
Thank you. I know I'm trying to end on a positive note, but maybe the positive note is that
we know about these things.
About these things now. Yeah. Be very critical of your government. No matter if you're U.S., Chinese, Australian, UK, whatever. It doesn't matter, right? Be very critical of your government. They do not often have your best interests in mind.
Yeah. I will say.
And corporations too.
I will say I know that in Guatemala, the Mayan community is still really strong.
Good.
A lot of people still speak Maya. A lot of the Mayan traditions are still being held. A lot of Mayan textiles can be purchased there, art. Mayan people exist and are still very strong and resilient people in Guatemala and in Mexico. So,
should we go to Guatemala?
That's what I said at the beginning. I really want to go.
Oh, yeah, you did say that.
I really want to go to Antigua. Guatemala
yeah.
in general looks beautiful. I want to see the volcanoes. I want to eat the food, talk to the people. We should go.
Okay, we're going.
Okay, we're going.
I was literally telling everyone at the beginning of this episode that I'm like unemployed now. And I'm like, yeah, we're going.
Oh, yeah.
We're going. We're doing it.
They're all like, with what money?
I know, right?
Good question, weirdos.
Good question indeed.
Well, babe, this was such a deep and important and well done first episode back. Thank you.
And guys, I feel like hopefully this is the type of episode that you will be getting from now on. Not necessarily this time frame, but just like the in-depth look.
Yeah.
We have more time now to like really like dive in and tell the stories the way that they should be told.
I love that. Yeah, that's what we want to bring to you all, weirdos.
Yeah.
Anything to wrap up our first episode back?
Buy our merch.
Yeah, buy our merch. It'll be cute. We'll all match.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Find that link in the show notes.
Exactly.
And send us pictures of you wearing our merch. That'll be so fun.
Yeah, if you send us pictures of you wearing our merch, with your permission, of course, we'll post it on our Instagram.
Yeah. Thank you, weirdos.
Thanks, weirdos. Until next time.
Adios.
Adios.